Okay, ladies and gentlemen, looks like Jake's ready in this video. Here's me saying some stuff. We have a couple videos that we downloaded. We thought they were super interesting and the sound didn't work. Why? Because a cord came loose. It wiggled loose. So you're going to have to guess what the heck we're talking about. That particular one, it was not Jake's fancy hair that I was pointing to. It was Jake's brain thinking about the experimental show, how we make things, and what he wants to make. So we were getting some products together for Valentine's Day, and he was debating what he wanted to make. And so, as you know, we sketched it out on the floor. So it's a heart, and he wants to pull the stem down and have it be the stem. And actually what he's looking for is a heart that sits on like a goblet foot on the table. So this is kind of the bottom here, and then this right here is going to be the added foot. Clearly not to scale, nice and big. And when we do these experimental shows, it's kind of something you have in your head, but then, you know, you got life going on. You've got all these different things going on. So you're like, I'm going to make this item, and until you make it, you don't really think about how you're going to make it. So what I was suggesting in that last image was pulling a trigger like an arrow. Like, what if an arrow went through that heart? Jake's thinking he wants to make it red, but the red is our most expensive color. So he's like, why would I make it red when that costs the most? Let's first make it out of just recycled glass or clear glass so we can test the process and see what it is. So I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I watch videos and I'm just looking for something in the video and I don't need to hear sound, and this is what this kind of feels like. Like I'm having a personal conversation with you while we had a different conversation in the studio, or while your volume was not on. So he's going to do the recycled glass. He's telling me what tools I'll need, what his thoughts are on how to pull it out. Bess is on the camera. It's wiggling around a little bit. We got the new camera in, but somehow the cord again didn't record the audio. So the tank here is 2,000 degrees, 2,400. The pipe warmer to the right of that, where you see the fire coming out, that only needs to stay as probably like 400 or so in there. Turning the pipe keeps the glass on center, and now he's going to do some shaping. I personally like the wood tools. They don't absorb the heat of the glass as much. So he's rotating the pipe. It slides along the steam. You can see the steam rising. And if you use it too long, it does start to burn, so that's why we keep it in the bucket. Jake's pretty fluid these days. He makes it look really easy. But rolling it on the table smooths it out and allows him to move to the next step. So the jack line he's putting in it is going to be the top of the heart. Where he's shaping right now will be that bottom part that he pulls out. The other thing I asked him at some point was, do you want the piece flat? So we're going to use the corks on it to make it kind of flat. The glory hole, he's going to flash it in there. You'll see him do it a number of times to go in there. The studio, you can see the sun starting to go down. Still winter in Michigan. This particular day it was very cold. Jake had been blowing glass all day, so he's nice and warm, but you can see I have my sweatshirt on still and my winter boots. This is also a great time. We do check the comments in YouTube, so if you ever want to reach us, you can leave comments there. This is February 2023. We had our first snowfall not long before this day, so it was kind of fun to have snow back in Michigan. It's talking about stretching out the bottom. If Jake had the time this week, he did a giant studio clean So we traded off. I said I'd do the voiceovers for these while he did the studio cleaning. The next time, if there is a next time where there's no sound, we'll see if Jake can't pop in and do the audio. So adjusting the flame on the torch, he's gonna heat up this bottom section. Now the thing is, with solid glass, the outside cools and the inside is still kind of mushy and soft. So think about like the skin on a grape, or maybe those new Hershey Kisses that have things on the inside but the outside's a little harder. Or even the earth, the crust of the earth is hard, but if you go to the center of the earth, it's supposed to be burning hot, right? So that's kind of like the glass. The glass will get a skin on it. The outside is hard, the inside will be soft. And using a torch, you can selectively heat certain areas. So I'm not sure why the camera went blurry there. I usually don't rewatch these videos, so that's kind of interesting. Depending what you're focused on, it has moments where it zooms in and out. So now he's gonna stretch this stem out, and what I do with the paddle is just kind of put a little pressure on the bottom as he's pulling it, which allows it to get a flat spot on it that he's gonna put the goblet foot. Always spinning the pipe, holding it down, stretches it out. Remember, this is recycled glass, so it'll be very light blue in color, but you can tell by the gradients of the yellow and orange what part is hotter. It's flopping around there on the pipe a little bit. The thing is, when it's sculpture, Jake's getting frustrated right there. The thing about being on a pipe and using the corks, you're going to flatten it. The corks, not flat like a piece of paper, but make it, instead of round, it's going to have a flatter side. And so what I'm telling Jake, it doesn't really matter if it's not 100% on center, because you're going to use the blocks, the cork paddles, to kind of flatten it and then reshape it anyways. So that's the trick about working solid glass. It's kind of different than blown glass. Usually artists choose one or the other that they work with. You usually use solid glass or hollow glass, and then you get very good at it. So the interesting thing about us for the shows is we do try different things. So now he's saying he's ready for the foot. This is going to be a blown foot. And, was it a blown foot? No, it wasn't. It was a solid foot. The wooden paddle footing tool is on the bench, ready to go. Every step that you can prepare is best, because the less actions it takes, the more core heat you're working with. That's what you want to do. So I'm getting 2 layers of glass. You can see he puts the punty on his toes. That just gives him a little bit of control so he knows where it is. Hot glass over the top. And you can always see what's hottest. You can spin it, adjust it. That extra glass will go away, and now he can shape it. The footing tool is also made out of cherry wood. It's this dark wood soaked in water. It's not a lot of pressure. Looking at his hand there squeezing it, it seems like, veins were popping and everything. But it's not a lot of pressure to squeeze it. And you also have to squeeze the same speed that you're turning the pipe, like the same consistency. Because if you squeeze really hard and then lighten up, your foot would be fat on one side and thin on another. Or the footing tool, if you first start squeezing on it really hard, you end up twisting the glass inside, and it's not very good. So, that said, let's get the foot on there. I'm using the paddle just to keep the bottom straight and also to cool it a little bit. You can see it's not bright orange anymore. And Jake's saying like, it's not 100% perfect. It's an experimental show. I'm trying to do this and it's not perfect. That's kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff that you guys see. We don't, when we're doing our larger shows, you don't see the 5 pieces before it that didn't work, or the frustration we had earlier. The punty is a small piece of glass. It will go on a solid rod. It does not need to be on a blown rod. So I will shape that just perfect so Jake can attach it to the bottom. Timing is everything. So when glass is hot, it's very sticky. He's just cooling it down a little. You can see that bright orange appears it's really hot. So he wants to center it with the foot. Now again, the heart part is flopping around a little bit. It's not completely on center, but that doesn't matter. You want to keep the bottom half on center. He's gonna make that top work out perfect. Back to the glory hole to heat up. And I'll take the extra pipe, put it in the bucket. And now it's going to take him a few minutes to heat the top. So this is a question we're wondering while we're making these videos. Jake's talking about turning the pipe and the different pipe styles. The rubber tip, which allows you to gather the glass on the pipe, it has come loose. So when you go to spin it, it doesn't grip the pipe and the pipe doesn't spin. So he's commenting how he needs to glue those up. These are the corks. It is made, cork is a bark off a tree. These are really thick. They're used specifically for glass. If you do the glass too hot and use the corks will burn up and get ruined. There will be some smoking. They definitely slowly start to burn away as they're used in time, but he'll have the right heat. So I'm following his lead here. He lets the glass drip and then asks me to squeeze it. We go on to talk about the way the paddles are. It kind of reminds you when you're watching a show like ER or some medical show on TV and they're like, "Stat, put the heart monitor on." So these cork paddles have lasted us. I'd say they're probably about 20 years old. They were given to us by a glass blower friend. We attended a workshop and he gave us the paddles because he was making them as a tool. You always need two. So the solid glass takes longer to heat up. If you've been watching our shows for a while, you'll know that when we go to the glory hole, it's usually pretty quick to heat it up. He's going to use the giant, looks like a butter knife, but or a pastry knife. It's called a taglia. It's a little thicker steel, and it allows him to shape it. So we're talking about the next step. Do you want a butter knife? Do you want the taglia? How are you doing the next step? How are you getting that little crease and the heart at the top? So the paddles you can use at various angles. He's mentioned to me that he wants it tighter, flatter at the stem and wider at the top. So again, when you're the assistant, you're not designing or making decisions about it. You're letting, Jay could have switched places with me and I could have let him do it. But he lets it fall a little and then asks me to do it. He's watching it. And then I shape it. Sun is going down. Getting a little darker in the studio. One of the things that we're experimenting right now with is the background, and I'm curious to know if you have a chance to write in the comments. Does the background bother you? All that equipment that you see in the background? Is it distracting from what's going on? Does it look like there's too much in the background? Because we want to know. We could put screens up or pull a curtain so that the focus is more on the glass. So here's the top of the heart. Using the taglia, he's able to shape it. Going in there for a nice shot. So at this stage, the glass, it's not as soft as butter. It's actually a little bit harder. Always turning the pipe. You got to keep the glass on center. And this particular piece is not going to go, oh, he's got to stamp it yet. It's going to be able to stand up. When it goes in the annealer, it's going to be able to stand up. He's going to do a little more shaping. It's still really hot, so he's not quite ready. When he's ready to stamp it, he's going to use the torch and create a little hot spot. So it's harder than soft leather. The thick glass right now, it's malleable, but mostly on the surface. I'm trying to think of, it's harder than silly putty. I'm trying to think of something that would equate. It's harder than if you're kneading bread. It's not that soft. Oh, we're talking about earlobes now. Somehow Jake said it looked like an earlobe. That's why I'm tugging at my ear. If you look at the glass that's attached nearest the pipe, you can see how it's super transparent. So that glass is way, way cooler. In the future, we might actually cut out some of these reheats. This is why we don't work with solid glass very often on the show. The solid glass takes a lot of reheats, a lot of shaping, a lot of time, and there's not much variance between coming in and out. So it's the engaging conversation that's keeping you there, but when it's just a voiceover, not so much. So he's pretty happy with it. Remember how it was a little wonky in the beginning? He got a little frustrated. Now he's okay with it. So he comes over to the drawing and says, look, it's a heart just like I drew it. So some of you know I did a vision boarding class. Vision boarding is when you plan out your life with pictures on a vision board. As glass artists, we do the same thing. We sketch it out so everyone's aware of what's being made. And we know the process that's being made. So at this point, I know he's still going to do the stamp, and so he's going to use the torch to do that. Well, at least I remember using the torch. He's telling me which tools he wants me to put it away in the annealer. Aha! Now, there he goes. So the trick about the torch is it heats the glass very specifically. Now this is recycled glass, so it doesn't mind this torch, but there's certain colors, if you do this to, they kind of burn out. So the color won't be as vibrant, or it will have spots around that area. White is a really good example of that. So when you take the torch and use it on white, it will turn black right where it was heated. So it doesn't like that. All right, there we have it, the heart. Oh, when it's spinning, there we go. And there's the GA stamp, super cute. And now to put it away. So even though the heart solid part is still glowing orange, that foot was not. So it's just evening out the heat a little bit. And then I'm going to use the tongs and put it away. We have 3 annealers on that side of the shop, actually 4, depending on what we're making, determines which annealer we use. The top loader is great for when you're making ornaments. The front loader is good when you are doing mugs or something that's taller. And then the 2 red ones beyond that are good for smaller items like snails or eggs. Things that aren't super tall, but there's many of. Blowing doesn't do a heck of a lot, but it sure does make you feel good, like you've cooled off the surface. So these are his new little tweezer tongy things. I'm able to grab it and hold on to it. One of the things I hate doing, because it's like if you drop it, it's the worst. They were making mugs today, so into the annealer it goes, and voila, the hot piece is done. I hope you enjoyed the show and watching. I'm just going to turn down the annealer, and then this is where we do our common thank you for watching. We appreciate you. That's a little close-up shot. All right, see y'all later. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.